Okay, welcome to lesson 39. We're talking about the circumference of a circle. Okay, first we need to know a couple definitions here. Circumference is the distance around the outside of the circle. So circumference is like if I started out here and I walked all the way around the outside. Okay, the distance around the outside of the circle. So it's kind of like the perimeter of a circle. But because it's not like adding up all the sides, because the circle doesn't have any sides, we have a different name for it. Okay, so circumference, distance all the way around the outside here. Diameter is the distance across the middle. So that's from one outside the circle all the way across the middle to the other outside of the circle. Key is across the middle. It has to go through the middle point. So like if I go from here to here, that is not a diameter because I don't go through the middle at all. But I can go here to here, that would be a diameter, or here to here would be a diameter because I go across the middle. And the radius is the distance from the center of the circle to the outside. Okay? So, if I start in the middle here, and I go out here, that is called a radius. Okay? And I'm going to rewrite that for you because I know a lot of you don't like my handwriting so much. You won't be able to read it, so let's rewrite radius here. Okay, R-A-D-I-U-S is the radius. Distance from the middle to the outside. I could go middle to the outside here, middle to the outside here, middle to the outside. Shouldn't matter. It should be the same distance every time. So a circle has a lot of what are called radii. Okay, these little lines from the middle to the outside. Another radii, and another radii. A circle also has a lot of diameters that go across the middle. Okay, but they should all be the same distance. Alright, now the circumference of a circle has a couple possible formulas for it. Okay, we can say the circumference is equal to pi, that number that you know is 3.14 yada yada yada, times the diameter, or we can also say that circumference is 2 times pi times the radius. Okay, either way. Two possible ways to find the circle. And the reason why it's 2 times pi times the radius is because the diameter is twice the radius. Okay, so like a radius goes from here to here. If we would continue that all the way across and do 2 radius together, that would make a diameter. So we can take pi times the whole diameter, or 2 times pi times the radius to give us the circumference of the circle. Okay, you will want to know these formulas on how to find circumference of the circle. Get those memorized. Alright, now let's go on to some examples of actually finding the circumference. Okay, so objective 1 is to find the circumference of a circle. Example 1 says the diameter of a truck wheel is 35 inches. About how far does the wheel roll in one turn? Okay, and they're telling us to use 22 over 7 for pi. That's a fraction approximation for pi. Okay, so diameter of a truck is 35 inches. So the best thing to do on most of these is to draw a picture. So we've got a truck wheel here, and the diameter is 35 inches. Remember, the diameter is the distance across the middle. So this distance is 35 inches. Well, since we're given the diameter, I'm going to use the formula for circumference that use the diameter. Okay, first thing I want you to do is rewrite the formula. So it's circumference equals pi times the diameter. Okay, again, we're using this one because we already know the diameter. That's what they gave us. Well, so our circumference is going to equal, instead of pi, they tell us to use 22 over 7 times my diameter, which is 35 inches. So I'm just going to take 22 over 7 times 35. So to do that, 22 over 7 times 35, I had to put 35 over 1. And what should happen is we can cross cancel here, okay, because 7 goes into 35. 7 divided by 7 is 1. 35 divided by 7 is 5. So now I'm just going to multiply the tops. 22 times 5 is 10. Carry the 1. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 1 is 11. That's 110. So we're going to get, for our answer, 110 over, then the bottom is 1. So that's just 110. So my answer is 110 inches if I use 22 over 7 for pi. Okay? Alright, let's go on to another example. Example 2 says the fan belt on Fernando's car wraps around two circular pulleys. One pulley has a diameter of 8 centimeters, the other has a diameter of 12 centimeters. What is the ratio of their circumferences? Okay, well, first thing is this pulley, we'll call this pulley 1, and that has a diameter of 8 centimeters. And then pulley 2 has a diameter of 12 centimeters. We want to know the ratio of their circumferences. Okay, so at the end, we want to know the ratio, so the circumference of pulley 1 compared to the circumference of pulley 2. Well, the circumference of this one is, again, pi times the diameter. And the circumference of this one is pi times the diameter. Well, a good thing about pi, okay, is that we can approximate it as 3.14, but if they don't tell us to, then it's okay, perfectly okay, to write this pretending like pi is a variable. So write it like 8 times pi. That's the circumference. And this circumference is 12 times pi. So if they don't tell us to approximate for pi, we can just leave this like this. Okay? Or if they don't ask us for like a real world answer, then it's okay to leave them like this. But if they ask you for like an actual number or a real world answer, like say tell me how many inches, or sorry, in this case if they said tell me how many centimeters the circumference was, well, I wouldn't say it's 8 pi centimeters. I would want to multiply 8 times 3.14 and kind of guess that. But in this case, we don't care about how much the circumference actually is. It says what is the ratio of their circumferences. So it's okay to leave the answer in terms of pi. So now let's write a ratio of their circumferences. Well, whoops, sorry, we don't need that there. I don't know, I accidentally clicked the wrong thing. Okay, well, we're going to have a ratio of the circumference of 1 to the circumference of 2. The circumference of 1 was 8 pi, and the circumference of 2 was 12 pi. Now we just need to simplify these fractions. Okay, well, pi divided by pi, anything divided by itself is 1, so those just cancel each other out. Okay, so our fraction is like 8 over 12. And that reduces down to 2 over 3. Okay, whoops, let me erase that. Don't like having my writing that thin. Okay, so 8 divided by 12 reduces to 2 over 3. That's the ratio of the pulley circumferences, 2 to 3. Alright, let's go on to another example. Okay, next example says, what effect does doubling the diameter of a circle have on the circumference? Okay, well, first of all, we know what doubling the diameter means. So, example, if we had, let's say, this had a diameter of 2, then doubling the diameter would mean that this one would have a diameter of 4. Alright, we want to know what effect does doubling the diameter have on the circumference. So we're going to find out the diameter, or the circumference of this circle and the circumference of this circle, and then compare the two. Okay, see how they compare to each other. So, circumference, again, equals pi times the diameter. So the circumference of this circle is pi times 2, which is 2 pi. The circumference of this circle is pi times the diameter, which in this case is pi times 4, and that's 4 times pi. Okay? Well, what happened? We have 2 times pi and 4 times pi. Well, 2, to get to 4, we doubled it. Okay? So our circumference has doubled when we double the diameter. So the when we double the diameter, it's kind of like when we double the perimeter. Or sorry, doubling the diameter is doubling the circumference. Okay, so the circumference doubles when the diameter is doubled. Okay, because 4 times pi is twice 2 times pi. Alright, let's go on to one more example. In the last example, George Ferris designed a Ferris wheel for the 1893 World Columbian Exposition in Chicago. Okay, so true story, that's who invented the Ferris wheel. It says the wheel was 75 meters in diameter. Calculate the circumference of the wheel to the nearest meter. It says to use a calculator if available. We don't need to. Okay, our heads are our calculators. So we know the diameter of this wheel is 75 meters. Okay, and we know that the circumference formula is pi times the diameter. So the circumference is going to be pi times 75, or 75 pi. Now the problem is, this is what I was talking about earlier, where it says calculate to the nearest meter. Well, the nearest meter isn't 75 pi, so this is where we have to round pi. Okay, and we're going to say that pi is 3.14. So now I'm going to take 75 times 3.14, and we'll get our answer to the nearest meter. Okay, so 3.14 times 75. We're going to actually multiply this out. 5 times 4 is 20. Carry the 2. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 2 is 7. Then 5 times 3 is 15. Bring a 0 down. 7 times 4 is 28. And we carry another 2. 7 times 1 is 7, plus 2 is 9. And then 7 times 3 is 21. And now we're going to add all those numbers. We get 0, 15, carry the 1. 1 plus 5 is 6, plus 9 is 15, carry another 1. 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3, and 2. Now we have 2 decimal places up here in the top, so that means our answer is going to have 2 decimal places. So we get 235.50 meters. Well, we want that to the nearest meter, so we're going to round that. 235.5 will round to about 236 meters. Okay? Now, when it says to calculate to the nearest meter or something, anytime you round, okay, make sure you put the word about there. It's about 236 meters. Alright? Okay, if you got any questions about circumference, ask. Otherwise, good luck on your homework. Happy homeworking.